Good morning, everybody. Happy first day of spring, March 20th. This is the Ohio Federal Research Network's third webinar information session on round 7. Um, let's see, it looks like we have participants joining, so excellent. So this is the will be a webinar format, so there should be a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So if you would please use the Q&A function for asking questions. That way we can keep track of everything, and if we don't get to your question, we'll make sure that we get it answered on our frequently asked questions portion of the Ohio Federal Research Network's website, which is ohiofrn.org. And then under the solicitation tab, you will see actually all of the rounds, but round 7 should be the one at the top. And that's where all of the information that we talk about and gets presented today will also end up being shown there for you for use for later on as you prepare your proposals. So let's see, a couple of other administrative things. So this is being recorded and it will be on the website for your use for at a later date. Again, if need be, the slides will be on the website. So, we can send them out to you specifically if you request them, but they are posted on the website as well for that. All right, let's go ahead and we'll get started here. Becky, if you would, next slide. Thank you. So just on the agenda for today, I'll do a real short OFRN intro for maybe those individuals that are on the webinar today that are new to OFRN that haven't maybe seen it before. And then we'll get right into our Q&A with our federal partners, which we're happy to have representatives from all of our federal partners today that will be able to answer questions that you might have based on the areas of interest for round 7, the 7 areas of interest in round 7. That's going to get confusing probably at some point today. And then we've got a little bit on some proposal training and some resources that are available to you all as well for that. We have had a lot of questions over the past couple of weeks when it comes to resources. So if you're an individual, say a small business, and you don't necessarily know what academic partners in the state that you can team with, we can help you with that. If you're an academic researcher and you don't know a small business maybe that is interested in doing the similar work that you're doing, let us know and we can help with that teaming as well. Next slide, please. Just again, a quick reminder, these are the goals for the Ohio Federal Research Network. You can see that sort of what we do is based on the triple helix model of innovation. So it's all about bringing government, academia, and industry together to solve problems. In some cases, they're what might be considered wicked problems. In other cases, they're just problems that need to be solved. And we have not been able to find the right teams to be put together to solve those problems. So that's why hopefully you all are here listening today to do that. We're also, of course, we would like to increase the amount of R&D work that happens in the state of Ohio and also the amount of federal funding that comes to the state of Ohio for that. And then really the bottom line is to try to develop those lasting and sustainable relationships between our federal partners, our academia here in Ohio, and our industry partners, so that even after your OFRN project is long been closed out, you're still working together to develop new technology. Next slide. So this is kind of how OFRN is built. So we have 4 primary federal partners: NASA Glenn Research Center up near Cleveland, the Air Force Research Lab, National Air and Space Intelligence Center, and the Navy Medical Research Unit, all located in Dayton at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And then the Ohio National Guard as well is a partner in what we do here. The state of Ohio funds the Ohio Federal Research Network, so all of the funding is state money. So consequently, again, for those that might be a little new to what this program is and how it works, is because it's some state money, there are some differences between the way this program operates and the way a federally funded program would operate. So just wanted to get that out there up front. We take industry needs along with those federal partners and their needs and mesh them together to be able to put together the areas of interest that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Parallax Advanced Research, which is a nonprofit advanced research organization and located physically in Beaver Creek in the Dayton area, is the administrative arm for this particular project. And we partner with Ohio State University as the pass-through for the funding, which comes from, as I mentioned, from the state of Ohio, but it comes through the Ohio Department of Higher Education's funding stream. So the money is passed down through ODHE to Ohio State and then to Parallax as an administrative entity for the Ohio Federal Research Network. And I will foot stomp that Parallax has no decision authority when it comes to the way the funding is distributed. That happens by the two green boxes that you see there at the bottom. So after April the 28th, when the round 7 solicitation closes, all the proposals that get submitted will be reviewed by our federal partners and then go to our technical review council for rack and stack. Once that is done, then and we know exactly how much money we're going to get, which won't happen until the governor signs the biennial budgeting bill for the state fiscal years 26 and 27. That would happen no later than June the 30th. It's always possible it could happen before that, but I've never really seen it happen before the end of the state fiscal year. So by June 30th, we will know for sure exactly how much money we're going to have to put into this program. And then sometime in July, our executive review board will meet, and then they will validate what the TRC did and put their stamp on it, as well as drawing the red line based on the funding on how many projects we'll be able to fund for the next biennial budget. Members of the TRC, just for your information, tend to be individuals such as vice presidents of research or maybe CEOs or business. Some of our other industry partners have individuals that sit on the TRC for us that have some specific technical capabilities. The executive review board is made up of typically presidents of universities here in the state of Ohio and CEOs of industry organizations in the state that look at this for us. Next slide, Becky. I call this our bubble slide. So this is just a roll-up, current as of December of 2024 of where we're at on the number of universities and colleges that have been engaged, the number of business partners that we have. We've funded over the first 6 rounds a total of 41 R&D projects. And you can see the number of jobs that have been created and the number of spin-out companies that also have been created during these first 6 rounds. The state of Ohio has put almost $62 million into this program. As you can see, our follow-on funding is approaching $400 million with a cost share from our industry and our academic partners in excess of $40 million. So we're looking at about a 7-to-1 return on investment is the way that I view this, which I think is a pretty good ROI when you look at these kinds of programs. Next slide, please. So real quick, process overview. I mentioned I've used the word teams a couple of times now. So here's the definition of what that project team must include. Although it's not underlined, it really probably should be underlined and bold and in red letters or something where it says at least. So you have to have at least one Ohio industry member. So in other words, an industry that has a physical presence here in the state of Ohio. And that industry member can be either the lead applicant or they can be a collaborator. You have to have at least 2 Ohio colleges and universities. And again, the role can be either as the lead applicant or a collaborator. And the Air Force Institute of Technology is eligible to fill the category of Ohio college or university. In fact, they're on one of the projects that we have funded in round 6. And then you have to have somebody from one of those federal partners, those four federal partners that I mentioned earlier, that are willing to sponsor your project. And when I say use the word sponsor, what I really mean is you just need to have them say, yes, this proposal is interesting to us and it meets the criteria that was set forth under the area of interest or the subtopic specific area for that. Um, they do not, and in most cases probably won't be sort of a formal member of your team. In other words, they're not going to help you write the proposal. They're not going to um, be officially on the team. In fact, all that we really ask from you is that you provide the name and contact information for that individual that is at one of our four federal partners as part of your proposal. And then that way we can validate that, yes, that you did in fact talk to them and that they have agreed to the fact that your proposal does meet one of the subtopic criteria that we have there for it. Next slide. We are looking for applied research. So if you're familiar with the way the government, of course, operates, then you would look at it typically be in the S&T area of 6263 type research. Um, Generally, universities do, what is considered basic or foundational research, and we don't fund that. We know our universities are doing some incredible work and get funding for the basic and foundational type research that goes on there, and hopefully that will continue. What we're looking for is things that are probably more aligned with a TRL of 3 or higher for the type of proposals that we're looking for. So just be cognizant of that fact when you're deciding as to whether or not you're going to submit a proposal and when you're writing the proposal as well. Next slide, please. This is just sort of a listing of what the technical proposal is going to consist of. And the solicitation outlines in great detail what exactly the page limits are for the various sections and attachments that you'll be required to include in your proposal for that. So I highly encourage, in fact, it should be mandatory that you read the entire solicitation. It's not very long, especially compared to some of the ones I've read that come out of the federal government. So I highly encourage you look through the solicitation that is on our website and make sure that you adhere to that. If you were not able to attend the March 6th training that we did for proposals, that is a requirement for you to submit a proposal. So please let Becky or myself know, and we will get you a link to that proposal training, and you can watch it. It's not very long. I think maybe an hour and a half is the total of that particular webinar that we did back on March the 6th. So, but you do need to make sure that you've watched that and that training goes into great detail as well as to what's required in the proposal. Next slide, please. And then we do require a student experiential engagement initiative attachment. So I think it's 2 pages max is what you're going to want to include for that. And the goal here really is to make sure that all of our project teams are including students in as they go through the period of performance. And those definition of student can be undergrad through postdoc. So very, very broad, very wide. It's just a matter of making sure that we're engaging those students that are at our universities around the state to make sure that they get to participate in this kind of technology development. And in a lot of cases, it's not so much on the technical side, because that's what they're doing at the university. In a lot of cases, it's actually the engagement with the industry partners to get to understand and see how the business side actually works for this. So again, the solicitation outlines in fairly good detail what it is that we're looking for the student experiential engagement attachment. Next slide, please. These are just the dates. So we're at March the 20th right now for that. So I mentioned that the proposal training, which was back on March the 6th. Again, let us know if you weren't able to attend that, and we'll get you a link to that training because we do need to keep track of who has seen the training and who has not, so that when you submit your proposal, we can cross-check to make sure that you did in fact have somebody on your team that watched that proposal. And I failed to mention before, but we only require that one member of the team be able to watch the proposal. You don't have to have your entire team watch that proposal training. As I mentioned, so we'll accept questions for round 7 through April the 18th. The due date for the proposal submission is April the 28th, and please be cognizant, of the times on there. So 5 o'clock Eastern on both of those. And the reason that we stopped taking questions about 10 days before the due date is because it takes us a couple of days or maybe up to a week to be able to make sure that we get good answers to your questions. And we want to make sure that we have those posted on the website at least a few days before the due date this comes up. So our goal would be to notify then all of the proposal teams that are going to move on to the Technical Review Council, which is where the rack and stack takes place. So in other words, if your proposal has been accepted and is going to move on to the sort of second level of competition, then we'll let everybody know on May the 30th. The actual decision, of course, on the funding piece, as I mentioned earlier, doesn't take place until the July-August timeframe. So even though we may say, hey, your proposal is moving on to the TRC, that does not mean that you have been funded or selected to be funded. It just means that you're moving on to the next step of the process for us. Next slide, please. Here are the areas of interest. So these is the subtopics. We have some representatives from our federal partners for those 6 areas of interest. So we'll do one at a time, starting with AOI 1, and we'll work our way through all the AOIs. Today, we'll about 8 to 10 minutes probably per AOI, unless there's no questions at all. Then, of course, we'll move on to the next AOI. But I do want to make sure that we get through all of the areas of interest in the time that we have allotted. So I will, if need be, have to cut off questions at some point in a particular area to be able to move on to the next area of interest. If we have time at the end, we can always go back and answer questions maybe that didn't get answered. Or as I mentioned earlier, we'll post the answers to the questions that we didn't get to live on our website. I think we should be ready to go here. So Becky, if you want to go to the next slide. So our first area of interest is hypersonics, and Becky's going to have to help me out here. I'm on my small laptop here, so I can't see both Q&A as well as chat and other things if somebody has a hand raised or something like that. So let's
Yeah,
see.
I'm monitoring both, and I don't see our SME for hypersonics on the
Oh, okay.
call.
Jacob's not on today, this morning yet.
It, he's not on yet, so
Okay.
we may want to go on to AOI 2
Yep.
unless he
Yep.
is somewhere that I can't see, but right now I'm
Let's
not seeing.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do AOI 2 then, and we can always come back to AOI 1 here then. And I don't, is Lauren on? If she's here today too, maybe she can check with Jacob to see if he's just tied up right now and is going to join later.
Yes, Lauren's on the call.
Yeah. So let's see, I think we checked in earlier and Ian is available. So for AOI 2, do we have anybody that would like to ask our subject matter expert a question about either of these subtopics? And you can either raise a hand and Becky can take you off of mute, or you can or we would prefer, of course, as I mentioned, to use the Q&A function. So, and this is for AOI number 2.
And let's see, we do have one question in the Q&A for topic.
Yeah, this
Let's
is a
see.
later topic though, so we'll we'll hold on
Okay.
that for right now. So
Oh,
this
I
is,
see that. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, this is for AOI 2. So the question deals with AOI 4. So let's see if we have anybody that has any questions for health and human performance. The
Okay, and that
subtopic,
reminds me, when you do put a question in, please put the AOI number
yeah,
before your question
that would be helpful too. Yeah.
and subtopic
Mhm.
number.
I know we have some teams that are interested in this subtopic, but maybe they already have all their questions answered. I don't know.
We have Rajesh has his hand up. I'm going to allow him to talk.
Okay. Rajesh, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can. Go ahead with your question.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, the question is for AOI 2. Given that at the last session it was mentioned that data sets will not be provided for this projects, is the POC for this, or the topic, agnostic to the type of data that's used to develop the framework or the predictive AI solution? For example, if we use another scenario where we have data sets that is about polytrauma and other things, and how you can use hospital data and other things to support that, will that be okay? Even though it's not combat casualty, it is still polytrauma that you will still see within the combat scenarios. Over.
Thanks, Rajesh. So, Ian, do you want to answer that?
Okay, thank you very much. Um, so that's the question you raised is pretty much um, one of the major issues with any kind of combat casualty care. Like a lot of our framework is based on civilian trauma protocols. Like we pretty much start off with like advanced trauma life support through the American College of Surgeons, which is kind of the basis for a lot of the way we approach trauma in the United States. However, there are peculiarities to combat injuries that require us to modify algorithms. The most the easiest example I could think of would be like the March algorithm that we use, where instead of going through like airway, breathing, circulation, we focus on massive hemorrhage first, because based on some of the mortality data, that's what kills troops fastest in combat. So yeah, there are differences. However, it's a perfectly well established precedent to start off with civilian data and civilian frameworks, and then move forward to uh, tailor your algorithm and your machine learning as more information evolves. And honestly, basing combat triage algorithms on the kind of injuries and situation we had in more mature theaters like OR, like Iraq and Afghanistan, is not really going to be reflective of future battle spaces, especially with like distributed maritime operations, if we have like larger, more spread out areas of conflict. So, sorry, very long answer to short question. Yes, I think that's perfectly fine.
Thank you.
Excellent. Ian, we got a couple of questions in the Q&A. The first one says, with respect to TRL level and predictive AI, if we have a solution that uses predictive AI but not in the medical field, would it be acceptable to show TRL capability outside the medical field but intent to integrate it into the medical field?
I think that's a reasonable approach, especially if you're looking at like medical logistics and planning. Just being able to adequately place and distribute your resources when the tyranny of distance is definitely going to be a major deciding factor. I think any kind of intelligent information on logistics in combat, whether it's bullets, bandages, or beans, is going to have some utility for us.
Excellent. And then another one says, can you please clarify which federal agency is the primary initiator of the AOI, and does it have to be specific to that agency? Well, NAMROD is the primary, but obviously the other agencies all have a lot of interest in this. So especially AFRL and the 711th Human Performance Wing, and there may be other individuals obviously working within NASA as well that might have some interest in some of this. I don't know, Ian, I don't know if you want to add anything onto what those comments.
I mean, among the list of sponsors you showed today, I know we're definitely interested. I don't want to speak for any other organization, but just across the wider DoD, there are multiple agencies, multiple subgroups that are all working on different aspects of this topic.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Appreciate it. Response to a generic question that was asked because I had used the word small business at the beginning of that. So only reason I use that is because we typically a lot of the businesses that we have are smaller businesses by definition of the SBA under 500 employees. But no, there is no limit as to the size of the business that can participate. In fact, we've had number of global companies that participate in OFRN. The only factor that has to be met is that the company has to have a physical presence here in the state of Ohio. Let's see. Yeah, so I think that answers your question, Jack. Let's see. One more says, can the project be developed in collaboration with medical institutions and agencies outside the armed forces for civilian use? Yeah, actually, I'll answer that. The answer is yes. So, a lot of the development falls under what has been categorized in the past as dual use. So much of what we're trying to do is, when by the time this project gets to the end of their period of performance, or even potentially during the period of performance, that they're working with other agencies outside of the state for funding opportunities, for commercialization opportunities. Because remember, the way this program is structured is at the end of the period of performance, which is approximately 18 months or so, the state funding goes away. And, our goal is to have found other ways, other types of follow-on funding for the teams to be able to continue the work that they're doing, whether that's going to, say, a phase 3 within DoD, or going to some other type of funding opportunity, or even spinning out a company that then moves on to other types of venture capital funding, or working with larger corporations to continue what they're doing. Right. Let's see. Any other questions for AOI number 2? I'll give it just another 30 seconds here. I don't see any. Becky, you can let me know if.
The Jack had a question regarding the follow-on funding from other agencies. There isn't any examples for follow-on OFRN projects.
Do we have listed the results from the other rounds on the website, Becky? I can't remember specifically.
The actual results, no. But we do have all of the projects listed on the website.
Yeah,
And each project has its own page, and there's information about the project and who the team is.
yeah. So that there's a lot. I mentioned actually two, I suppose, because working with these federal partners, there will probably be opportunities for follow-on funding that will take place during the time that you're developing the technology, or further developing the technology that you're working on for that. So there's things like phase 2 and phase 3 opportunities within SBA, that you can submit to. Specifically, the OFRN funding would count as a match for the TACFI funding that is part of the way the federal government, specifically within DoD, does their follow-on or does their technology development. So and then of course on the civilian side or the commercial side, there's plenty of different ways that you can go as far as additional funding. Looks like one more Ian here for you, and then we'll move on. It says, does the subtopic 1 have to include the medical logistics component, or excuse me, is that the primary objective?
No, that was just an easy example on that one. Medical logistics is certainly a very high priority topic, but I mean, the part where predictive AI to support medical triage and life-saving interventions, having some kind of AI guidance for care based on evaluation inputs is certainly useful as well.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Okay, Becky, let's go on to AOI 3. So AOI 3 is aerospace power management, materials and distribution. You can see the two subtopics, aerospace electrification and safe partial discharge for corona-aware high voltage cable for aerospace are the two there. So any questions for AOI 3 that we can help answer for you? And we'll wait a little bit here and see if we get any questions. And I will mention, Becky put it in the chat, but we have a OFRN-question@parallaxresearch.org is kind of the email location for all of the questions. So you can submit any questions if you would to that email address, and then that way we'll make sure that we get them posted to the FAQ. Any questions for AOI 3 with the group we have here today? We'll get to 4 here in just a second because I already have 2 questions for 4. But we're looking for AOI 3. Any questions for AOI 3? AOI 3. Going once. Going twice. I know if you're like me, I'm a slow typer, so sometimes it's just as easy if you raise your hand and we can bring you off of mute if you have a question for AOI 3. All right, well, we can always come back if need be. I don't see any, so Becky, let me know if I'm missing anything. We'll go on to AOI 4. So commercial space in low Earth orbit, the specific subtopics that deal with this AOI is low leakage cryogenic valves and space-based situational awareness. So we have 2. The first one, I'm sorry.
Let me just say real quick, if anybody has questions on subtopic 1, this is Paul. That's not my area, but I know people who may have answers to that question. So
Thanks,
for
Paul.
subtopic 1, yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I think the anonymous question, Becky, on our website, I think what you're asking is for some help when it comes to team matchmaking that I talked about earlier. So on our website, and we'll show you a couple of slides here at the end, actually, that go through how to do this. But we have a team matchmaking capability, and you can go in there and put in your request. So, and sounds like in this case, this individual might be from a business, and they're looking for some help with finding some universities that they could partner with. So you would go into the website, you would put your information in there, and specifically what you're looking for or who you need help with, and then we can make those connections for you off of our website.
Hey, Mark, I'll add one thing to that too, is space domain awareness or space-based situation awareness is so big to accomplish it successfully that the question's hard to answer too, because if we don't know which angle they're coming from, right? There's sensors looking up, sensors looking down, sensors looking across. There's people in the loop. There's calculations. People are doing machine learning. So I could almost guarantee at all major universities, somebody is touching some portion of SSA. It's just that big. But if anybody had specific questions, we could look into that. So figured I'd add that for number one.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
So so the second question, so I would be a POC at A4L for SSA. NASIC, I more recently learned about some of the reorg there, and some of the folks I think are now over in NSIC, the National Space Intelligence Center. So they sort of had to break off. That's when they built a new building and all. But I would have to verify with the questions that I would be getting the right people in line. But they're definitely AFRL here. And I have colleagues out at Kirtland in our V, our Victor, and our D, our Delta, who are definitely in this game and are always interested in hearing topics and ideas.
Awesome. Thank you. Fantastic.
Man, this Zoom makes it hard for us old blind guys, dude. Look how small that question is. Space-based SOA. Does government stakeholders have specific guidance on size? Yes, size of objects. So, so I love the size of object question, because the wonderfulness of the how high is high question. If I have a very large object of interest out in cislunar space, that's just as hard to see as a very small satellite in low Earth orbit. So I don't think there's any specific interest. If you're tracking something, you know, by background, I'm a perception guy, so it's all visual angle, except for at those distances, it's way beyond that. It's sensors, resolution, and whatnot. If you can track it, people are interested. You just have to say what level and where you're tracking at. And we just had a discussion in another group I'm on, talking a lot about some of the same metrics and measures that we use for human performance, people use for all the tracking. So resolution and stuff like that. So yeah, there's no specific. I think everybody's constantly trying to improve that, because we want to get better than the couple bad pixel pictures that sometimes we look at. Over.
Excellent. Thanks.
Yeah, so that's so I don't know the chirogenic, but I know somebody who might know the answer. So Becky, I guess the easy thing for that would be if you shoot me that question and I can reach out to folks I know.
I think that one, Paul, is actually for AOI 7. So they're asking about advanced materials.
Oh, it does say 7. Oh, okay. Because chirogenic is also subtopic 1 and 4. Because I know keeping sensors cool up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll get to that here, hopefully. So
can we get Paul Havig's contact information?
I assume you guys send that out or have it, right?
We do. We can Becky can send it to, but we'll do it by individual typically. So as opposed to blasting it out to everybody. just to try to be sensitive of your inbox. So let's put it.
My inbox is already terrible.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure of that. Let's see. Any other questions here for Paul for AOI 4? I know, because I do know there has been a lot of interest over the last couple of months on the subtopic 2. So we've gotten a lot of questions already for that. So, and there's probably a bunch of answers on our FAQ page as well for this one too that you might take a look at if we don't get to it today. Let's see. All righty. Becky, am I missing anything?
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. We'll give everybody a few more seconds here to see if there's any other questions on AOI 4. Don't see any. Remember, you can raise your hand and we'll bring you off of mute or take you off of mute if you'd like. If not, all righty, AOI 5. Quantum technologies. So our two subtopics are listed there. So looking to see, I think I saw John is on.
Yes, I'm here.
Subject matter expert. So excellent. So any questions that John can answer for AOI number 5? Again, you can raise your hand and we can bring you off mute. You can type it in the Q&A. Either way. Any question? It's like an auction, I think, here today. So it seems like seeing how quickly we can get people to type in questions. Any questions for John? Don't see any questions. Let's see. Let me double check the chat just to make sure. Nope. Just for those listening, if maybe on a phone or something and it's hard to find the matchmaking questions that we talked about a little bit ago, if you go to the solicitation 7 on our webpage, ohiofrn.org, at the bottom of that, the round 7 solicitation page is where the team matchmaking link is, and that will take you to the information to be able to sign up if you need some help. Here we go. So first question is this including GPS location tracking like quantum sensor? His caps lock is stuck, unfortunately. That's okay.
To answer that, yes, from what I think you're asking, if it's including tracking of GPS systems for quantum sensors and stuff, yes, that can fall within this capabilities too. Quantum is a broad topic, especially in AFRL and where we do things. So we're happy to capture information and things along these lines. So, yep.
Okay, excellent. All righty. Any other questions? Let's see, check one more time here before go on. I don't see anything in the chat either. So, all righty. Well, this was a easy one for today, evidently. So thanks, John. Appreciate it. Becky, let's go ahead to AOI 6. And again, if you think of a question, of course, later, feel free to throw it in the Q&A. And if we don't answer it live, it'll be answered on the FAQ page on the website for that. So don't fret, we will get an answer to your question. AOI 6 is autonomy. So autonomous systems operation and operator defined metrics for trusted autonomy are the two categories. Do we have any questions for AOI 6? This may end up being a shorter webinar than we thought, Becky. Oh, well, here we go. It says, are there any specific use cases that you can discuss for autonomous systems operations, or are we free to provide our own use case? So I think is it Dan and we have available today?
Yeah, this is Dan.
Yeah.
So I guess the general thrust of what we're trying to accomplish could be summarized as scheduling and planning. And I think that was briefly mentioned in the write-up that we submitted in the talk from about a month ago. But I don't want to get too specific, obviously, because this is a public forum. But yeah, scheduling and planning algorithms are the heart and soul of what we're trying to accomplish. Just because whenever you go into a new situation that you have to do logistics for running an autonomous system, it's important not just that you have those sensors doing the autonomous sensing and collecting of data and exploitation of that data to turn it into information you can take action upon, but also having the ability to take those autonomous platforms and figuring out how to navigate in space and time, and then also how to take that information and autonomously derive an intelligent course of action that platform might need to take. So follow up to planning. Can this include mission planning specific to the autonomous platforms? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, if you have a high-speed platform, the plan's going to be a lot different than if you have a platform such as like a quadcopter, for example. The speed of the platform is much smaller. The types of obstacles that you're going to run into, the types of threats to that particular platform's ability to remain airborne, if you're talking about airborne platforms, or if you're, absolutely. The inherent qualities of the platform are necessarily tied to the planning and logistics of what is considered a threat and what is not considered a threat. Over.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. All right. Any other questions? One thing I think I forgot to mention in the beginning that actually Dan touched on for those and this applies to all of the AOIs, is that if you when you read the solicitation, if you haven't looked through the solicitation, each of the AOIs has a somewhat detailed write-up in the solicitation that can also might help answer questions that you might have. So please make sure that you do look through the detailed write-ups in the solicitation on our webpage. Let's see. Asking if you could give some examples on the metrics for trusted autonomy.
This is more of Kevin's area, so I'm going to do my best to spitball here. But
I can answer that one thing.
Oh, go ahead, Joseph. No problem.
So generally, we're not looking for like new subjective measures of trust. There's so many things like that out there in the literature. We don't need more of that. I think what we're looking for is more operationally relevant, not just the metrics themselves, but it's also the scenarios and how you use the metrics to validate what's actually happening, which has more to do, if you think about it, with the situation and how you design the evaluation as much as it does with the metrics themselves. So think beyond questionnaire sorts of things. We're looking for innovations here, whatever people can think of that's creative in this sense. I guess the bottom line is beyond traditional subjective measures of trust. Think ecologically valid scenarios to validate. Think operationally relevant sorts of interactions that might make sense to look at these things also dynamically. So beyond subjective measures. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you so much. All right. Any other questions? Any follow-ups? Again, if you'd like to just raise your hand, we can take you off of mute. I know sometimes that's easier than trying to type up when it looks like we do. So, Becky, if you could take Andrew off of mute.
Yes, he's all set.
Okay. Andrew, you can go ahead.
Very interesting. Yeah. We have a manned aircraft right now that we're looking at unmanning. And it was built specifically for ISR military special ops purposes. And there's a lot of interest in turning it into what they call an optionally piloted vehicle. And I'm just wondering if there's some synergy between this AOI in our platform as we move it from manned to unmanned.
I'm sorry, I think I missed the essence of the question. You have a platform that you want to take the pilot out of.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're looking for the right partner to unman it, and just didn't know if this would be that effort for us to unman or make our aircraft autonomous or optionally autonomous. Is that something that is of interest to the stakeholders of this AOI? I mean, it's certainly optionally, I mean, it's um, of interest to certain people in the special ops community. It just, uh,
Sure, sure.
not sure if it's of interest to whoever is behind or whoever the stakeholders of this AOI is.
I guess without knowing more about the specific project you're talking about, the concept of unmanning a system is curious because I mean, generally, when you have an autonomous system, it requires a fair amount of investment into just designing the sensor configuration and things like that. So sort of retrofitting, it's almost like you're doing what Tesla's been trying to do, right? Where they have a currently manned, in this case, electric vehicle, and then they want to add enough autonomy to it that can sort of like fully pilot itself, right? So it is interesting in that respect. I don't know if that's like the heart and soul of what we're trying to get at. It sounds a bit specific, but it is curious. I don't know what the I guess what the classification level of that work would be, since you're talking about special ops and things like that.
Do you think I could have a sidebar with you later today or tomorrow that give you a little more insight to what we're doing and just see if it's worth us to submit a proposal?
Yeah, we can talk offline if you wanted to share more about that. But yeah, obviously we can't talk in depth here. Over.
Roger. Okay. How do I get your contact info?
Well, Andrew, we'll get Becky. I'll make the connection.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You
Thanks,
bet.
Mark. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. And actually, Andrew sort of brought up a good point. We don't really talk too much about it, but in general, the program, because of the nature of the way that we try to build partnerships, it tends to be pretty well, it is on the very unclassified side, let's put it that way. For those that do a lot of work with, the military, you might even call it distro A, which was a term that I used on a previous webinar for it. But I would say, if you have a team and all of the individuals meet all of the criteria, in other words, they're all U.S. citizens, they all have security clearances, those kinds of things. I'm sure there is probably opportunities based on the federal partners that you're working with to be able to do some work at a maybe a CUI level, a CUI level, or even higher potentially. That we could do help facilitate, but it would be post award of a project. In other words, it's not something that would be included as part of your proposal. You could identify it maybe as part of the proposal, but it would not be something that would be evaluated specifically as part of your proposal for OFRN 7 or round 7. That is something actually trying to figure out, is there a way to be able to allow teams to do um, classified work, I'll put it that way. That's something potentially for the future to be able to look at and work on. But for this round, we need to stay as much in the unclassified realm as we possibly can, just because of the nature of the funding coming from the state of Ohio and the fact that the results, are going to be published in many cases on open source type documents. So from this, happy to talk in more detail with anybody that would like to do that, but I'll kind of leave it there for today anyways. Rajesh.
Yeah, just a question to follow up on that was, given that this is a lot of software development kind of activities, we're not going to be able to address a lot of the security and OTA requirements and other things, given this is only taking a product to TRL 5.
Mhm.
Correct?
Correct.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Well, let's move on to AOI 7. So, because I know we did have a question earlier, but I can't remember. It seems to have disappeared off my list here. So, but for anybody for advanced materials technology, had some questions for either one of our subtopics.
And the one question we did have, Joseph answered it,
Oh, okay. All
or
right.
Andrew.
Hey, good
Andrew,
morning, Smitha. Loud and clear. Sorry, I missed your call. I just right after I texted you, something popped up.
All right. Uh, it looks like Marissa has her hand raised.
Hi, good morning. I have several questions, so I figured it would just be easier to hop on here.
Yes.
So this is related to the subtopic 2, the thermally conductive electrically insulated material. Is there a typical length of wire that you're looking for coating that you can provide?
I don't hear anything. Becky, do we have? Is it Tim or Andrew Woodworth?
So that I sent them into Becky too. I can always just wait and we can do it that way too.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Yes, we got you now. Andrew, go ahead.
So, Marissa, did I get that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. It's really hard for me to answer that question. So if you're thinking about, we in the call, there's 3 different applications.
Yes.
If you think about a cable, and I'll be blunt, this is my background is electric aircraft propulsion or electrified aircraft propulsion. So those cables can be in the length of a meter to like 10, or I think that 30 meters was the longest if it's a cable. If you're looking at, say, a motor application, you're looking at coatings on individual wires for Litz wire, you're talking miles,
Right.
or hundreds of kilometers. Like one foot of, excuse me, I'm mixing my 1 meter of Litz wire has over 60,000 meters worth of Litz wire in it. So the depending upon your application, it could be a very, very wide, that could be very, very a wide range. So you have to look at the specific application. If it's running from the cargo bay of an aircraft out to the nacelle on a wing, or if it's running from the nacelle back to the stern of the aircraft. So there is a pretty wide range on what you would be required to do. Also, and I'd put in there that that's just for a single application. However, I would imagine that if you're actually manufacturing this, you wouldn't want to just create 30 meters worth of wire, or cable, or you would want to create this in a large enough volume to populate several aircraft at a time. So I would go to industry and see what industry likes to make in a particular run. I don't have that specific number in front of me. I know the application.
Okay. Okay. I guess on that note, so from the insulating materials, is the expectation that when we apply the insulating material, it's still as flexible as it was prior to that material?
If you have to be able to work, you have to be able to actually route a cable into an aircraft. You have to be able to wind a wire on into a motor. You have to be able to integrate it into an application.
Okay, so
So
on
that's a short way of saying
yes.
saying yes.
Okay, so regarding the winding wire onto a motor, if the solution has a wicking capability, could it be applied post winding, or is your intent to have it as a unit prior to winding?
So you have to look at, you have to go and look specifically at the application. So if you wind, there are potting applications
Yes.
for say motors, and that is something that is talked about, called out in AOI 7. So if that wicking ability makes your material a good potting material, now the question becomes, like, if you've already wound something and you have say copper directly to copper, will that be able to infiltrate in between those and provide this maybe the sort of electrical disconnection that the application requires?
And then I guess on that note, are there any standard wire gauges for the strands? Or is that something we could find somewhere, or is it going to be a variety?
It's going to be a variety depending upon the particular application. And it's I will say this, for an AC application such as in a motor, that um, that can vary depending upon the fundamental frequency of the motor. So again, this is something where if you are interested or thinking about, particularly about the Litz wire sort of
Yes.
application, you may want to talk with a commercial vendor that can, talk you through that sort of thing. Fundamental frequencies can all the way go. Fundamental frequencies, depending upon what you're doing, can um, range from, I would say, in the hundreds of hertz all the way up into kilohertz. Actually, maybe even lower than that, depending upon the switching that's taking place. But this is, I will say that these are for power dense sort of applications. So when you go and you talk to a vendor, you can talk to them about that.
Okay, great. Okay. And this may be another vendor-based question, but I didn't know if I'm assuming based on our research, there's a current coding on the wires. Is that something that you know, or is that something we should reach out to the vendor and say, what's the current coding on the wire?
Uh, yeah, so those current coatings are typically polyimides.
Okay, great.
They can vary depending upon vendor, but if you're looking again at a power dense sort of machine, you will imagine that those machines tend to get pretty warm, and the higher temperature, at least to my knowledge, and I could be, again, it's something to go and talk to a vendor about. But to the best of my knowledge, those tend to be high temperature polyimides that are already in those applications.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We have a question in the Q&A. It says on subtopic 2, will there be target metrics identified beyond thermal conductivity, like mechanical targets at use temp and identified environmental use cases?
Could you come off?
Jack? Yeah,
Andy
Jack.
Broker, is that? Could you come off? No, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong.
Marissa, you can put your hand down unless you happen to have another question. But Jack, if you could come off of mute, if you can.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Jack out of Blue Halo in Dayton, Ohio. Just looking at subtopic B, just looking at the surface level of this topic here, it's obviously called out with thermally conductive insulating materials. I'm assuming this is used in extreme environments, either hot or cold. Is it important to take a look at those materials developed and see what the mechanical stabilities are or mechanical performances are at those use temperatures, if it's either extreme cold or extreme hot?
Yeah, so I would say extreme hot in this case is, thinking right around 200, 200C. That's, where they have, if you were able to come up with material that was able to push above that and still maintain maintain that. Now, so in a motor and, sorry, so that I put in, I shouldn't say, there are 3 different applications in there. And the difficulty with that is that there's 3 different environments. So in a motor environment, you're going to have to meet, the vibration and torque and those sorts of mechanical requirements, say like a potting material would have to be made. The tall pole here is that there are already a lot of different potting materials out there, but the the ones that are out there, if they're thermally conductive, it's really hard to push them in between the wires into the gaps and spaces you need. So the viscosity has to be low enough that you can still impregnate. With that said, yes, you still need the mechanical sort of stability for there. And I believe in the call does discuss durability in the application. So that for specific application will need to be considered. And maybe it was a short site in there, but the different applications have different sort of different different compliance issues. So if you're talking about, say, power electronics, you've got a lot of different materials in there. So the compliance, you've got there's a lot of CTE that happens. So they tend to have, like, you see, like, silicones used. So if you do something there, you have to be, those components heat up and cool down. So you would have to be able to survive that environment. Cables go through some of that, but to a different extent. Motors, again, are a different, they're rotating machines, so they again have a different set of specifications. So if this is aimed at a particular product, the proposers will at some point in time need to address that sort of aspect of the environment. That is not as clear of an answer as I would like to give, but does that get to your hit at your question?
I think that gives me a better sight picture of what the RFP is going to call for. Thank you.
All right, excellent, thanks. It looks like Tim is answering some of the questions while they're being asked, which is great. I appreciate that, Tim. That helps out a lot. Matt was asking, is there a list of other alloys that are available? So I don't know if you want to answer that live or if you want to answer that.
Yeah, I'll answer it live. It's pretty easy.
Okay.
Typing it out. I mean, the real answer is there isn't, a specific list of alloys that are a part of that call. I do think it is meant to be focused on, ODS alloys that have been produced through additive manufacturing and looking at other ways to, maybe produce it through different additive techniques. So right now, you can buy commercially available coated powder feedstock. And so, one alloy that comes to mind is the alloy that we've developed here at NASA, which is GRX-A10, which you can purchase. But theoretically, if there's another composition that you would like to get coated in 3D print, because it has an industry need, I think that would still be a worthwhile endeavor to propose. So I think it just depends on what parts of industry needs are you targeting, what applications, and why you want to do certain compositions.
All right, great, thank you. Let's see, we do have another one on subtopic 2. So if the material can't be used both at cryogenic temp or high temp, is high temp or low temp property, more preferred. Most aerospace machine designs currently don't require cryogenic temperature.
They don't, but there is for this particular trade space, there is a increasing interest in superconducting sorts of applications. So that is sort of a forward-looking thing. There's also significant interest in fusion right now around the world. So some of this you could, and even though my area is not fusion, uh, these two things. So what I would say is that you could aim at cryogenic for superconducting kinds of applications, or you could aim it more at ambient air, ambient, 0 C up to, well, it's really, if you think about an aircraft, it's probably more like minus 50 or 60 C. You could experience in flight, all the way up to those operational temperatures of the motors, which is around 200 C. So I would not expect a proposal to cover both. Is that helpful?
All right, excellent. And I think Tim is helping out with AOI 1, which is great. Since I don't think, Becky, did Jacob ever join?
No, he did not.
Okay, just wanted to check. And I don't know, Rajesh, you had typed meant ATO, not OTA, but was that reference, I'm assuming, to a previous question that was already answered? If not, let us know and we can go back and address that.
No, it was meant authority to operate, authority to operate software in military environments.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Great.
I'm losing my acronym experience.
Believe me, I fully understand. I spent 37 years in the military, and between all the services, I can't keep track of any of them, I don't think now. So let's see. All right. Any other questions real quick here before we move on to some of the other offerings that we have here for today? Give it just another few seconds and see if maybe there's one more. If not, it's fine too. Don't see any. All right, Becky, do you want to go ahead and to the next slide? And thank you so much, of course, to all of our subject matter experts for attending today. We truly appreciate your support with this program. Thank you so much. All right, resources. Dave Nestic, are you here today?
I am.
I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Trying to turn my video on. I guess I can't. That's all right.
Okay.
There you go. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. That's all right. Don't worry about it. You don't need to see me anyhow. So I want to introduce the Ohio Manufacturing Innovation Center. Mark, thanks for giving us this time as a potential resource in these projects. So OMIC is relatively new. It's a new asset in Ohio for STEM-based workforce development. We focus on hiring college interns from around the state, not any one institution, but any of the institutions around the state. And we put them on projects that are industry-based projects, which makes it a good avenue for the student experiential engagement part of the OFRN project. So we have a fully equipped electronic production facility. The interns can also do background research on any technology area. We've done stuff in quantum, we've done stuff in inventory management projects and others, and autonomy projects and that. But but the core of the capabilities are this fully equipped electronic production facility. We have experienced mentors on staff to work with the interns. The mentors can also be the company that is doing the project or the academic partner that's in the project. OMIC is also STTR partner eligible. It's a 501c3, and we've worked as partners, as research institute partners in STTR projects as well. You want to go to the next slide, Becky? So our potential collaborative opportunities, OMIC can identify and hire the appropriate talent from any institution. The interns can be guided by the academic PI or the industry lead, and the interns can be chosen to align with industry technical objectives even beyond OFRN. So, if the industry partner is developing a commercial product and they want to be able to hire the interns afterwards, we can make sure that the intern and the work that they're doing aligns with the objectives of industry so that it's a transition from OFRN to SBIR, STTR, or directly to the company. So anyhow, that's it. OMIC also, I want to point out the follow-on funding line. So we provide support for partners in SBIR and STTR proposal processes. We have a couple of consultants on staff that are highly experienced in SBIR and STTR to coach companies through those processes for follow-on funding as well. Our website address is innovatingohio.org. That's innovatingohio.org, www.innovatingohio.org. You can contact us there. My email address is dave@innovatingohio.org, and you can contact us there as well. So anyhow, that's OMIC. Thanks for the time, Mark. And all
right. Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. All right. Next slide, Becky. All right. YBI. Is that Stephanie today, or who do we have?
Yep, I'm on.
There you are.
Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
Stephanie.
So I will give a little update about Youngstown Business Incubator. As our name states, we are a traditional business incubator. We work with early stage advanced manufacturing startups. And then we also have a manufacturing side of the house, which is the programs that I run. I am currently the Vice President of Advanced Manufacturing Programs. And over the past 11 years, we've done about $112 million in state, federal, and local contracts, helping manufacturers commercialize technologies, adopt technologies, and early to market. Next slide. As I kind of mentioned, we have a few programs that go along with YBI, Evolve, Advanced Manufacturing. We have a youth entrepreneurship, and we have a supply chain diversity program. Next slide. This actually needs to be updated. Last time I gave this to Becky, we got a award notification for $26 million from the state of Ohio to develop an innovation hub in defense and aerospace with advanced manufacturing. So that number is currently larger. The next slide, I think, talks about our project partners. We have extensive expertise, 3D printed sand cores, deep connection with industry, over 300 project partners. So if you're looking for someone that's doing something within the state of Ohio, we can help you there. We are also a 501c3 nonprofit and can act as your STTR partner if you are looking for a university partner. In our building alone, we have 6 buildings now, totaling, I want to say, with the addition of our new building, about 350,000 square feet of space. And out of that 350,000 square feet of space, I would say 180,000 of it is for manufacturing and manufacturers. So either housing equipment, companies touching the advanced manufacturing space, And we've helped over 200 SMEs enter the supply chain within Ohio. We've done many previous projects with Parallax Advanced Research, including their Apex program, which helps companies effectively do business with the DoD, particularly writing SBIRs and STTRs through the AFWorks project. We have led and partnered on previous OFRN projects, and we currently have advanced air mobility program going on with Parallax Advanced Research as well. Next slide. This talks a little bit about the Defense and Aerospace Hub that we've just been awarded. This building sits on our campus. These are some of our project partners that we have involved. So very deep-rooted connection here in Northeast Ohio within government, academia, industry, all of those partners we have ties and connections back to. Next slide. Here is my contact information up on the slide. If you are interested in partnering, or even if you are looking for a partner or someone we can help you connect with, whether it be one of our small manufacturers or someone that we've worked with in industry, please reach out to me. We will be happy to connect you or, help you with the proposal itself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Appreciate it. All right. And Entrepreneur Center.
Good morning, everyone. Mike McCann here with Entrepreneur Center. I'm our VP of Innovation Engagement, and I'm excited to share just a little bit about what we do. EC is an entrepreneur support and venture development organization based in Dayton, Ohio. We are located here at the Arcade Innovation Hub downtown. We work with a wide range of small businesses, but importantly for this discussion, we support more than 100 high-tech, high-growth startups across Ohio, about a third of which are outside of the Dayton region, from the early stages of development, proof of concept, all the way into the growth stages. So this is a summary of the type of resources that we can bring to bear, from validating an idea, getting it to market, helping put together some of the fundamentals, supporting grant and funding proposals, and positioning for capital. Go ahead to the next slide. We also manage the 100,000 square foot Arcade Innovation Hub here in Dayton. So we have now, I think our count is up to more than 180 resident companies and members. So growing role of companies that are here. So if you're looking to transition the research into a high growth, high tech startup, or if you need a place to office and you're here in the Dayton region, we would love to learn more about what you're working on. Go ahead to the next slide. I think it has my contact information. So you can learn more at ecinnovates.com, or you can send me an email and I'm happy to get you connected. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. All right, next slide. So we've been talking a lot this morning about the team matchmaking piece for that. So again, if you go to the OhioFRN.org website, and then there's a solicitation tab, and you click on that, you'll see round 7 listed there. If you go to the bottom of the round 7 solicitation tab, then is where the link to the team matchmaking site lives. So, and although it's hard to see on my laptop because I have a real small laptop, but that on the left there that Becky is pointing to, that's circled in red, is the link that takes you to the team matchmaking site for that. And again, this can be used for if you're an industry looking for academic partners, or if you're an academic looking for industry partners, or if you're both and you're needing help finding somebody within our federal partners to be able to talk to. You can use that as well if you'd like. Next slide. And then this is kind of what the page will look like when you click on the link. So asking, what kind of partner do you need? What kind of organization are you? Provide some information about what you're looking for, what the AOI is specifically that you're needing help with for that. The one thing I will highlight here is that, again, this is a public facing website. So please, please, please do not put anything that is of intellectual property or specific to your business that you don't want out in the public domain on this web page. This is really just for sort of generic questions and being able to help find partners for you. Next slide. We do have the frequently asked questions link as well that's on there, which is where all of these questions get posted, or all the answers to these questions get posted to. So again, at any time, over the next couple of weeks, if you want to go back and take a look at that, because Becky does update this as we get questions in. So every day or two, there may be new questions that get asked and new answers that get posted for that. So I highly recommend that you do take a look at that every so often just to see if there's something new on there for that. We did have, so there is a question that we got, Becky, that deals with export control license. I don't know if we have anybody from contracts on today, but actually I think it would because the answer is a bit detailed here, it would probably be better, Krishna, what we'll make sure that we do is we'll get you an answer from our contracting folks for your question here directly to you, but we'll also post it, of course, on the FAQ as well. And I don't, Becky, there may be actually some questions similar to this that are already posted. I don't know if you knew that off the top of your head or not.
Off the top of my head, I don't think I've seen one this detailed, asking about the actual license.
Okay.
So it's definitely a contracts question, and I
Yeah.
do not have anyone from contracts on in the meeting today.
Krishna, if you want to go ahead and come off of mute, you can feel free to be more specific if you'd like, but unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to give you a definitive answer today, or at least this morning here live on that.
Mark, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, the reason is like we reached out to the export control license office at the university and they had a couple of questions. Again, I just posted it, but yeah, I'd be happy to wait for your answer. I can share my email specifically, or if you can post it on the FAQ page, anything works.
All right, fantastic. Yeah, no, Becky's got your email since you registered, so we'll make sure that we get an answer to you as quickly as we can from our contracting folks on that one. So
I'm also not sure about like what these details entail. Again, these are the questions that Director of Compliance asked me.
Yep.
So yeah, if you give me a response, that would be great.
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Bet, sure. Yeah. No, I've been working with universities here in Ohio for a long time now, so believe me, I fully understand that they tend to ask a lot of questions. So we'll do our best to try to get a good answer for you. And it may, and obviously it applies to your university. I'm sure it applies to the rest of them as well on that. So thank you for the question. Let's see, Becky, next slide. I think we're pretty close to being done here. This just outlines that again, that if you need a relationship with one of our federal partners, you can send a question or send it to the OFRN question email, and then and put subject federal collaborator needed and provide that information, and we will make sure that we connect you to some folks that can help you with that. All right, next slide. This is all of our contact info, so feel free. I know Becky actually would prefer, we ask that if you have questions that deal specifically with round 7, that you send it to that OFRN-question at parallaxresearch.org website, only because that way it's all collated in one place and it makes it easy for her to transition the questions over to the website, to the FAQ section, and provide answers for that as well. You can send questions to either her or myself individually, and we'll forward it to that website ourselves or that email address to make sure that you get your questions answered on that. And I would highly recommend that, if you haven't seen an answer to your question, in a couple of days, either from one of us or on the website, then feel free to reach out to us directly and we'll try to make sure that we get that out there. So, because I know we're getting into, just a little over 4 or 5 weeks to when these proposals are due. So, fully understand that the anxiety level might start to raise here when it comes to whether or not you're putting together a proposal and you have a specific question that you need answered. So, okay, Becky, anything else here? I showed 10 o'clock, so we're pretty much right on time.
No, I think we've covered everything. I just want to reiterate, send your questions to ofrn.question@parallaxresearch.org. I am posting daily to the FAQ, and we're trying to get our log of questions answered and cleared. And then also, with regards to matchmaking, I am trying to respond within 24 hours if you put in a request to make the match. And then I will be following up shortly with those that have requested matches to see how it worked out and if you need some more help.
All right,
So
fantastic.
that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you so much to everybody that joined today. We truly appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing some of your proposals here in the near future. So have a great rest of your day today, and hopefully spring will be nice. Thanks, appreciate it, everybody.